I'm here to remind you how magnificent and smart you are. We all are. What's the meaning of birth, life, and death, and life general? What's the purpose? I always wanted to know, and I'm pretty much sure out there are many people wants to find answer for these questions. Maybe it's you. Words are the least reliable form of communication expressing experiences. Therefore, I would like to paint metaphorical pictures for you to help you visualize and create a better understanding for all these processes. Before I start, the number one rule we have to talk about in universe are paradox. What does it mean? The paradox realm in universe and the whole existence, that's the most simple, and actually pretty much this is the only rule what exists overall. Paradox means two identical opposites are creating the whole picture. If you ever seen yin yang demonstration, the symbol, the black and white in a circle, there are black and a white, two identical half of the circle, and there's still a little dot from within each other from the other part. There's a meaning to that. Please remind that. I'm going to talk about why and what's the reason for that. So the number one rule, just like your hands, two identical opposites are there for each other to create the whole. And they are not against each other. They exist at the same time and they are there for each other. So how the birth process happens, just to imagine who you are, or really what's your ultimate truth and existence. Picture the water. What form the water has. You know, the form is like the shape of the water changing all the time, moving constantly, but still very powerful. You can't really grasp it. Now you have the picture. Now fill that water form, water shape with light. Beautiful white light. Fill it up. So now that is you in your universal whole existence. Your macrocosmos. That's your unique macrocosmos. That's how we exist in the universal, in our universal form. So just imagine that, the whole universe is in a circling motion all the time, non-stoply. There's no such a thing as here and presence and stops and pause. Everything constantly moving around you. So just imagine you are in the circle in this point, on your own circle. So you need to decide on your next spot where you're going, or what's going to be your next spot. Just like when you finish a task in our realm and you're deciding and you're planning on your next goal, that's exactly happens also in the universe. So when you're standing in that point, let's just picture the sky, even nighttime, daytime. How many stars you see on the sky? Just shrink that little picture, the whole peripheria or the whole perspective of the sky, just shrink it down to your own three-dimensional vision, your own perspective. Your eyes in this three dimension is just represent and able to see just a segment of the whole, because your eyes are meeting at one point, so actually that cuts out only just a little segment of the whole circle. Just get that picture, your horizon in front of you, and try to paint a picture. Actually, there's an art called stippling, when with little dots you create the whole picture. Try how many dots you need to take, just that little horizon yourself, to create the whole picture. So those dots, let's just say that every dot what you are taking represents a form or a choice of your form, your existence, where you want to go, what you want to be, what form you want to take, what's your next step. Those are all yours. How many, right? Even on that little picture only. So those are your choices. So let's go back to the point where you want to pick your point. You are in your universal water shape light field existence. So you pick a dot in the universe, and that's going to be your next step where you're going. But as we're speaking of dot, in the visual form and existence of the dot, it's only two-dimensional, which is really limited. Let's just put a little bit more matter into it. More matter you put into it, it's gonna grow up, actually expand to more dimensions. So let's just extend it to 4 dimensions. So the two-dimensional dot, when you in 4 dimension, becomes a sphere. So you decided on this little spot, your little dot, and you put yourself, you want to go there. That's the universe. Each and every dot has to follow the simple rule, which is the paradoxon rule of the universe. That's the only rule exists. But each and every dot and universe and spot in the in existence has the free will to create their own structures, their own rules. Just like in our realm, each and every company has their own structures, own rules, but they still need to follow by the government and whatever the mutual and the the law, the general rules. So you pick your spot. How you gonna get there? How you gonna get from your existence, because you are much bigger than that little dot, to that point? You need to shrink yourself down from your whole existence to that little spot in the middle of that little sphere. So that's what you do. You shrink yourself. Now, there you are. Whenever you reach the shrinking process, the final result of it, when you become that little dot, you're that little, that's what birth occurs. That's what we call birth. But just remember the perfect demonstration in a yin yang. Even in if you want to be in a let's just speaking in yin and yang, you want to become the white part of yourself, which is you still have to have a little black spot within you just to create the whole circle, and one day become black and white, balance yourself out to create your whole being of yourself. So even in that little dot, when you are in your little existence in the very limited 4 dimensional world, you still have within you all your whole beings. Which are those? Those are your senses. Those are your guardians. You have your 6 senses. You have your sight, you have your hearing, you have your smell, taste, touch, and intuition, which is your knowing. These are the keys for you, to remind you. These are your best friends to remind you, to guide you on your path and reach your whole yourself again, to get the opposite of you. So, as you see, in the game, with your free will, you choose the point where you want to go, you shrink yourself down into it, you even choose the dimension what you want to be. In our dimension where we are right now, in the place what we call Earth, the appearance of matters are this, how we are. The structure of our body, your eyes in 4 dimension takes this kind of forms, and everything else. This is the rule of this particular dimension, what you chose to be when you were born, before you were born again. So in the paradoxon realm, we already talk about the birth, and also because there is free will, and the opposites of free will is the destiny, which is pre-decided or predetermined goal. Those are how you gonna get that rule into your game. So you are as a spot, you are in the spot, so you decide on the sphere, and that 4 dimensional sphere, where's gonna be the spot you want to reach on the surface of the sphere. Let's just say you decided from that little middle of the sphere you want to go, you pick a spot, your final destination on the surface of the sphere. That's your destiny. That's what you decided, what you want to become, and who you want to be. The way how you do it, and how you do it, and which path you are taking, it's all up to you. That's your free will. But and you have your guardians to help you not to circle around, not to waste so much time, still get to the point where you want it to be. So we spoke about the birth. Birth is the shrinking process, as universe does. Everything else does the same. This is the only rule exists in the universe. So our opposites, which is the expanding process, when you remind yourself from this real right now, speaking of only this universe, you learning, you experiencing, you feeling things, because those are the keys to experience who you really are, your ultimate truth, the little black spot within your white being in this universe. Speaking of the yin yang, are your six senses. Those are your guardians. So do not ask anyone where you have to go, what you wanna be. You'll ask yourself. Nobody knows better than you. Your sixth sense is your guardians. How you can do that? You can meditate. Meditation connects you back to and remind yourself back to your whole being. Those six tools, your sight and all of your senses, it's always there for you. You are never alone. You are always guided. Remember that. So that's a funny thing. People like to take advices from outside. Even me, many times I realized still I didn't experience myself. That's not the way. So everything is within you, and everything you decided is up to you. So please ask yourself only, nobody else. Just you live with yourself 24/7 from the moment of your birth, actually forever and always. You with yourself. Who knows you better than you? So that's one thing. So we speak about the birth already, the shrinking. The final result of the shrinking process is the birth, and the final result of your expansion, when you extend yourself back to your whole universal being, the water and light shape form of yourself, that's the death. And you get back to the circle on the next point again, and you go again to the next, again to the next, again, and it's like, it's a non-stop circle. It never really stops. So actually, we never die, all right? We just change forms. So don't be afraid of life. Don't be afraid of death. It is just a game of yourself. You decided on that. So that's and with this, I'm answering the third question, which is the most important. We agonize on it a lot. What's the purpose of your life? To play your own game. And don't blame anybody else, because it's you who decided on it, it's you. So ask yourself anything you want, and also remind yourself that how many dots, how many choices, how many chances you have. Those are those little dots. Remember those little pictures you have to paint on the horizon. Those are your choices. You can be, what does it mean? You can be anybody who you want to be. You can change any form. You can do anything you want. One more thing also, if you would think of that, why we are getting older and shrinking, it's also with the paradoxon rules, when you are expanding yourself, your macrocosmos is expanding, so your body cannot really take, because within inside of you you are growing, so the microcosmos of you, the little box or little body you put yourself, has to shrink. That's why you are changing shapes and form. You are not really aging, but okay, we just call it aging. You are just changing forms. So I really hope I could bring some light and knowing or understanding in your perspective of the world we are living. And I hope I could remind you what's the ultimate truth and of life, death, and all these processes, and what's the ultimate truth of yourself. So enjoy the game and enjoy life, because this is never ending.